ago, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion, a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. This operation will continue for as many days as it takes.
Namaskar and Jai Hind. And as we just saw in the video, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion against Iran this morning. And Prime Minister Netanyahu was very clear. He said that it is a targeted military operation to roll back the Iranian threat to Israel's very survival. Now, from what we have seen till now, it has been a remarkable strike. They have taken out, the IDF has taken out the chief of the IRGC. It has taken out the chief of the Iranian army, nuclear scientists, hit very precise hits. But since a war is always a very dynamic situation, and at times it's not very prudent to discuss the situation at the very outset, but it is also very important to understand the dynamics of how a war evolves and the way in which it could proceed. To discuss this, I have with us Lieutenant General Devendra Pratap Pandey, former GOC 15 Corps. Welcome to Samvad, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Man, thanks a lot. Very interesting situation developing.
Hassan, that is what I saw, sir, taking out these many targets in a very small span of time, sir. And I must state at the very outset that this discussion is basically to understand how conflict involves, how different players in the conflict behave. And we are not taking sides or supporting any action or counter-action by any party. We are simply discussing a situation, sir. So militarily, sir, how do you assess this Operation Rising Lion in its first phase?
Okay, look, a couple of things. Let's first talk of Operation Rising Lion. If anybody thinks that this operation, the outline of the plan started few months back, it will be really giving a short shift to the strategic thinking and long-term vision of Israelis. They plan much ahead, right? They don't see right in front of the nose. This entire precise hit, wherein they got together the top leadership of Iranian forces, the chief of IRGC, chief of their military, and number of people were together when the hits were carried out. Also, when you see the strikes, they are very, very precise. A missile going through a wall which is hitting the bedroom at a particular time is the kind of precision which has been done, right? Not only this, the type of bombing which has been carried out, because those nuclear shelters are very hardened. They are supposed to be multi-layered underground basements. They are very hardened, protected in all possible manners. They are supposed to be most difficult to be hit, breached, and thereafter destroyed, kind of construction which has been done for the nuclear plants where the processing is done, enrichment is being done, meeting is not done, and everything else which goes about it. So I think this whole work has been into process for not one or two. It's been a couple of years work which has happened, right? And let me say this, that with the new type, Israel has been using air warfare, right? Combined with cyber information and everything, which is, besides the traditional warfare, quite extensively. This is not the first time. Rarely the boots are put on the ground and their army versus army kind of operations are done. They are very rare. They are all very, very specialized operations, which is not traditional warfare concepts. Okay. But these can only happen when you have great technological tools with you. You got the backing of the major powers who allow you to carry out these actions. You require the political will, not only of the leadership, but also the population to back this entire thing, right? So this hit which has been done has been very, very precise, exceptionally outstanding. I believe about 150 to 200 Israeli Air Force jets have been participating in this entire thing. In fact, the response, majority of the response of the ballistic missiles were disabled. by Israelis in the first strike itself through multiple modes, using intelligence, using cyber, including precise hits, and all those things which have been done to ensure that the ballistic missile systems don't take off from Israel from Iran towards Israel has been done. So that is one. The other part, what they have done very uniquely, when you destroy the iron structure, Iran is a very centralized system which operates. It's not a very decentralized, democratic environment where the functioning is done, where everybody can take their own decisions. When you take out the top leadership, right, there's a big challenge. But the smartest move which Israelis have done, that they have hit the nuclear assets and the military targets, right? They have allowed, they could have gone for the political or the religious leadership as well, which they have not done so. So if they could hit the top ranking leadership of their military forces and IRGC, who are supposed to be much more clever in hiding the trails, more so, in last about a year, multiple hits have taken place in Iran, elsewhere. And therefore, I'm sure they were covering their trails to yet hit only them and not going for Khamenei. I think is sending a message that we are not targeting you. We are not dividing the religious, because if they hit the religious leader, then the political voice of the country will go against Israel, right? So they have allowed for a featured rapprochement with the people of Iran, and that comes out very clearly in the statement of Benjamin Netanyahu, who made this statement very clearly that, look, the people of Iran, we are not with you. We have got nothing against you. It is only about this military people who have been, authoritative, their repression forces, repressive forces and stuff like that. And therefore, we have gone against them. They have tried to use psychological operations as well when they have carried out this hit, separate the people from the military or the forces, right? So I think it's a very outstanding operation done. They were also prepared, right, to take on the drones when they take off from Iran. So the good part is that their jets were already in the air. Generally, what happens is you allow the drones to come to Israel and after you start taking them one by one. They were already there in the areas around to take out these drones when they're taking off. I think that's another smart maneuver which they have carried out, right? So I thought this is adequate enough. I'll talk something later which I won't do.
So the war seems to be evolving in a manner which was not thought of before. We saw the Pagers explosion in Lebanon last year. And this time also the special forces have gone around, and we have these visuals where the Israeli special forces they're operating inside Iran and helping the forces target, getting to the target. And then we have the drone warfare. So, when I see the drone warfare, the first thing which comes to my mind is basically that the concept of strategic depth is perhaps no longer relevant, because any country can reach any place. There is no logic of having depth without technology. So the combination of the special forces and the drone warfare, how is this headed, and what have we seen in Iran till now?
Okay, this is not new, right? Again, a lot of time people start looking at these subjects as new because we are discussing, right? I have been the commandant of Army War College, even as a GOC of core and before. We have observed this trend. Okay, let's quickly wind back to the operation which the Americans had carried out in Afghanistan, right? There were CIA operatives who were pushed in first. Okay, they networked with the local rebels or people who were disaffected with the Taliban, initially with the Soviet Union and thereafter the second chapter with the Taliban. Both the times, the CIA operatives were inside, and thereafter the special forces came the second wave, and all the hits were carried out without putting boots on the ground through either by Air Force or through the drone warfare. I'm not talking of immediate past. I'm talking of not 20 years back, 15 years back, right? So this concept of operation through introducing an element of small teams of special forces who followed the CIA operatives or intelligence operatives and who marked or they laced the target, they painted the targets where they had to be hit, they gave the exact grid references now, and thereafter the strikes were carried out. They were carried out so precise, even within the villages where compounds were in proximity of the schools, where there were misses, where innocents also died. But they were able to take out moving vehicles and such like things. So this combination of satellite observation, two RPVs flying together, one carrying a payload, and everything is being controlled from the CENTCOM or somewhere in the mainland in US, right? So the flights may take off from anywhere, but the control levers. So this has been ongoing for about 15, 20 years. And Israel has possibly mastered this art in last about 20, 25 years to carry out the operation like this, right? So they have done it number of times. The scales also have been varying. A similar scale has been there previously, but this time going into Iran the way they have been going had required a huge amount of preparation. But this is the new warfare, right? Unfortunately, in our continent, in our subcontinent, the Chinese, I believe, have the capability to carry out this thing because they got a large number of their own people who are spies, who are operatives. They got enough number of their payroll. I don't know how it is going to pan out tomorrow. They will have the capability of launching such kind of a strike within our country. Do we have similar? I'm not too sure, right? So is the case with Pakistan. But what happens in Pakistan? That our traditional military might is good enough to subsume, right? Which we saw in Oxendu. So the new plus for us to find depth, strategic depth in terms of disaffected party inside Pakistan is slightly very different. Today's political environment today, can we risk sending out our special forces in a similar manner? What the US does it, the French have done it, the British have done it for a couple of times, and Israelis have done it multiple times. Can we afford to do it? We really need to start thinking and developing that capital.
Sir, the Iranians, they have been known to be they talk very big, the Iranian, the high leadership, Khomeini, IRGC. They talk very big. But when it comes to walking the talk, they've always been found wanting, at least for the past few years, starting from the Iran-Iraq war.
They're quite like Pakistan as well. What happens is that when you start using proxies, right? When you start religion as a tool to fight warfare, right? Warfare is professional. Whereas when you start using Maulvis, you start religious scriptures, when you get into this sacking your own people to win a war without actually fighting. Iranians are good fighters. Let's not give it this thing. And they have made exceptional progress for their own country in terms of nuclear assets, in terms of having they've got still got a very professional military. But unfortunately, that military is controlled by religious ideology. The moment you put a layer of religious ideology, the professionalism starts going down. Similar is the case with Pakistan as well, right? So I'm just trying to very quickly compare. Then walking the talk becomes difficult because you need, in religious fanatism or religious warfare, the leaders have to come in front and lead from front. When you go into history, right? So a lot of time, during Op Gibraltar, the Pakistanis invaded by number of teams named on Islamic main fighters. But their leadership was behind. You'll always fail. Right? So that is one part. The second is the Israelis have got a very good, well-developed technological base. They have also got, if you see a couple of months back, when Hezbollah was being targeted and there were some issues, Israelis had launched multiple drones and missiles. All did not reach, but about 65 to 70% were able to hit some odd targets in Israel, right? It was was quite evidently. And Israel is a very small sphere to protect. But Iran is a larger area. You require larger air defense system. You require larger number of deployments. So the challenges for Iran multiplies multifolds when something is being launched from Israel or in areas proximate to Israel or where people who are supporting Israelis, right? So air defense of Israel doesn't require that much space to be covered. Well knit, well controlled, smaller area. But when you compare with Iran, there is a challenge. So there are other issues, right? The motivation levels of fighting for survival for Israel is far beyond what an Iranian ground soldier is going to carry out in opposition, right? Plus, today's Iranian polity itself is not very convinced. It's very divided. You see number of things which have happened in this thing. When very, very authoritarian ideology controls, the people on the ground will not be able to fight for. They are not convinced in the fight. Right? So there is a difference between the two forces. So while they may have the technological tools, not as good as Israel, but going out to fight the fight with Israel is going to be that much difficult. Again, look at the money part. Israel has been getting billions of dollars from America and the places, right? It's got a support of the best of the technology which is coming there. It is, I agree, most of it is their own self-innovation. Intelligence is their own. But if you think that this entire operation being executed without support of the others is something flawed. But Iran doesn't have all that. They have been sanctioned for a period of time. Their economic state is quite well known. There are challenges after challenges for Iran, right? They don't have the money, they don't have the equivalent technology to match missile to missile or drone to drone. And of course, the issue is also of satellites, pictures, everything, right? Who could have supported them? Chinese and the Russians. Chinese will not like to support. Chinese are good friends only when your tidings are good, right? They're business people and rightly so. Right? Why should they get into? They may provide you some technological support in terms of satellite pictures and images, but I don't think that kind of a close coordination between Israel and Iran and China exists. Russians are subsumed in their own challenges and problems. They don't have time for doing all this. So Iran, willy-nilly today, is quite isolated and alone to fight this battle, having drained off through sanctions for last 3 to 4 decades. It's not been short on 4 decades worth. Where's that money? Technology requires money.
Sir, you just spoke of the American support for Israel. I've been going through the American, because in the past few months, there have been some negotiations going on between Iran and the Americans. After Trump walked out of JCPOA, the whole story started in 2017-18 when he walked out of JCPOA. Now he wants Iran to stop enrichment. That story has been going on for some time. But for the past few days, sir, I was going through it, sir. Donald Trump, he said that he was speaking somewhere that these strikes could happen very soon, he said. But then he denied. Then yesterday only, he said that diplomacy is the best way to go about it. Marco Rubio says that Israel has taken unilateral action and the United States is not involved in strikes against Iran, and Iran should not be striking our targets. Trump now says that I have given Iran enough chance to come to negotiating table, and if they don't come now, there will be more slaughter to follow. How do you see, and is this operation possible without the permission of the Americans and direct involvement also, sir?
No, you tell me, are you convinced?
I'm not, sir.
So just think that the world is also not foolish. So are not the Iranians. Everybody understands how Israel operates and how these people operate. So these are all nuances. How can Americans come out openly? When have they come out openly and said that the strikes have been done with their permission? Right? Ukrainians carried out the strike and destroyed about 37 to 40% of strategic capability to launch nuclear assets of the Russians. Please tell me the the talks for peace talks were about to start and commence. People were gathering together from the Russian side and the Ukrainian side, and Americans were concerned. Please tell me that will this happen without the sanction of America? Right? Americans lie right straight into your face, looking that we are your brothers, we are your friends, and thereafter they will do what they want to do to destroy you. Right? So please understand that Americans work for the nation, for their interest. They have a policy to take out the nuclear assets from Iran, and they've been working towards it. I am sure, not 1%, I'm 100% sure, right, that this not only had the sanction, but they had full planned operations conducted in sync with the Americans, Britishers, and everybody else who was involved. Not, yeah, okay, intelligence, I mean, the ground intelligence operatives, SF, may not have been done by them. That Israelis are pretty capable of doing it. But rest of the stuff, right, suppressing the Iranian Navy system, giving satellite pictures. There's so many things. It's not a very simple, you take off 100 jets or 200 jets and thereafter carry out a strike. Nobody comes to know, and thereafter you turn the table and say we do not know. So Americans have support.
Yes, sir, please go ahead.
And nobody is being fooled. Huh? Everybody understands and knows now what America is doing.
Sir, are these peace talks, the ceasefire bit, because we saw that in Russia, that ceasefire talks, that pressure for ceasefire with Iran also, are these basically tools of deception nowadays?
Yes, they are tools of deception. I just want to connect a couple of things. Please understand that even when the Ukraine thing was happening and the strike was carried out with Russia, there was a very conciliatory noise which was being made. I don't think the Americans wanted the war to stop. Now, with the Europeans also totally involved and they have taken their alternate routes of fuel and all, they want to have complete destruction of Russia. All right, Ukrainians will get destroyed in the process. They have been already destroyed. They don't care about it. Right? So, you imagine Ukrainians are no friends of European Union or America. So if you have destroyed one people, does it make a difference to them? Similarly, in case of Iran, if Iran gets destroyed, do you think anybody is missing the Iranians? I don't think so, right? Today, it is not about the oil in Iran, right? Today, it is about other facets. I feel, I have been really wondering very hard for a few days. In fact, I tweeted on 12:30 morning that Iran should be prepared for the onslaught. I did not know that it would have come so fast. It came within 12 hours. It was just because I was just reading, trying to understand. A couple of things have been coming to my mind, which maybe I'll write an article or tweets. That was 7th October, which happened to Israel. Was it in knowledge of Israel when it happened? Or did they have a hint of something is going to happen? That large-scale break-in by the Hamas to do what they did. And did Hamas go beyond something, when they got the break-in and success? So maybe I have a feeling that Israelis allowed that break-in to happen to perpetuate the punishment. If they had wanted the war to stop, at number of times there were methods in place to stop. But what has happened in the end? I think this was all very well planned, and the end game was possibly in the geopolitical, geostrategic arena to take out Russia from the equation, to take out Iran from the equation, and see how gradually in last about 4 years things have happened. Gaza is destroyed totally, right? They will take at least 3 to 4 decades to come alive. If they want to do it on them, themselves, it will never be possible. But if the West comes in and pitches in, possibly in a couple of decades, Hezbollah has been neutralized to a great extent. Syria, you imagine they shook hands with the HTS, who was an ISIS leader. Was he the plant always, or was he converted through some lure, some system? Right? One doesn't know. It is only time will tell. And he was empowered, enabled by the Israelis and the Americans both. Suddenly, he became friends and a very important leader. So the swing back of almost dead ISIS in form of HTS came in and they took over entire Syria, part of majority of Syria. And therefore the influence in Syria of Iran, right, and Russia got over. It's finished actually. Very little influence, if at all, is there. Okay. And then what was left on the table was Iran. And here you go, the strikes on the nuclear assets, wiping off the entire leadership. Was it a part of a larger strategic plan? So I hope if you connect the dots, how it comes out.
Sir, I'll bring you closer home to the eastern part of India, sir. If you were Xi Jinping and you see all these things happening, Russia in a soup, Iran nearly knocked out, Pakistan, Asim Munir going to America for the Army Day celebration, that's another story, sir. Would he see, would you as Xi Jinping see the window of opportunity for Taiwan closing very fast and make a move for it, or wait?
Yeah, so I don't think Xi Jinping, he had this window of opportunity about 3 to 4 years back. If he had not moved on India and showed his hand in Doklam and thereafter in Galwan, right, and remained silent for some time, he would have got that opportunity somewhere in 2021-22. Right? Now, with every passing year, even though America is consumed in some sense, right, but his forces are not. The forces of Japan, Australia, and the larger NATO countries are yet not committed either in Ukraine and Russia, nor right now in the same. Israel is good enough to take care. The forces are there. The second is that internal, please understand, the Chinese start looking outside when they are powerful inside. Right now, they are not powerful inside. So a lot of time people always say, the Chinese, when they will have internal disturbance, they start coming out to deflect the mind. No, the Chinese don't work like this. Chinese will either control internal disturbances and challenges. China has got major problems inside. It is economical, it is fractions. Z is growing older, he is unable to take control. A number of sackings or the military leadership, Politburo members, the top leadership has taken place, right? So I don't think today he is in a condition to do what he could have done maybe 3 years back, right? Maybe 4 years back. But now it is not. There's diminishing. The window is closed. If they do it now, China will have major trouble to play. Because look, right now, India has not shown its cards. Which way it swing? We remain a very, very potent force today in the region. And they cannot pull out forces from their southern borders, right, towards the east. They don't have enough. And technologically, they are still about a decade behind in terms of quality. And in terms of numbers, they may be just about half a decade behind. But in in Navy, naval forces, Marines, and Air Force, they are way, way behind right now. Right? The US is not committed. He's just not committed as of now. Anything.
True, sir. Sir, one final question. Prime Minister Netanyahu, he spoke of nuclear terrorism, which was being indulged in by Iran. This is what they say. And Iran supplying these nuclear weapons to proxy groups, terrorist groups. Iran building ballistic missiles which could deliver these nuclear weapons not only to Israel but to Europe and eventually America. Now, sir, when I see Pakistan, the same story, sir, ballistic missiles, terror groups, proxy groups, that virtually, I mean, they have been living under that umbrella of blackmailing the West, of doing the same things. Now, if the Israelis have got a right to self-defense, why is it that the world suddenly erupts if India resorts to self-defense?
Yeah, so world is not erupted. Frankly, after all, we struck where we had to strike. There are a
But
couple
not
of
very
things what has
helpful also,
happened and
sir.
which was not public knowledge, which has now come out in public knowledge, is that once about, I think, a decade and a half or 2 decades back, I don't remember the year, when the threat possibility of nuclear assets getting on the hand of the terrorists came about, the Americans had taken control, a proxy control of the nuclear assets
Okay.
in Pakistan, right? It's not talked about. If you research, you'll find this. So majority of their systems have been, in any case, that is how it is done. The warhead is somewhere else, delivery mechanism is somewhere else, the fuses are somewhere else. It's called meeting concept when you require to carry out. So these have been firstly separated. Second, they have been also put under scrutiny. I don't want to say lock and key of the Americans, right? But there's certain degree of control of US on the nuclear assets, right? That is why there was a response from the Americans when the Kirana Hills and Nur Ali Khan base was hit. It's a possibility. But what I am told, what I understand is a decade and a half back, all these had gone into control. Maybe our intelligence agencies were aware of it. Maybe some people were aware. But it is unlikely to fall in the hands of terrorists till the time the Americans allow it. Okay. So, look, Pakistanis are okay. Let's say they are not under control of the US. Pakistan reflects itself to be an irrational, radical country. But please understand that their all elite leadership and the family love quality of life from themselves. So to start believing that you have a radical leader like Asim Munir controlling Pakistan army in the top hierarchy and is going for the nuclear button, right? It is unlikely to happen.
Now, we're basically referring to the complicity, sir. But one final thing, sir. Asim Munir, Field Marshal Asim Munir, self-declared Field
Field
Marshal,
Marshal.
sir. Sir, he will be in US tomorrow, the 14th of, or I mean tomorrow itself, sir, 14th June.
Yeah, 250th anniversary
250th
of US
anniversary and the birthday of Donald Trump. So, with Israel and Iran locked in that battle, sir, Israel being the closest ally of US and Pakistan, as usual, the defender of Islam all over the world, does he not feel uncomfortable about the whole situation as to how it's
No,
panning
they
out?
don't. They have it. You see, is in this in Pakistan, backstabbing goes so easy. I was just writing an article on Asim Munir, and I was just going back into, Ayub Khan was brought in by somebody, right, as a loyal, faithful chief,
Iskandar
right,
Mirza, I
54,
believe, sir.
Iskandar Mirza, and then Liaquat was the president when he led a coup in, I think, 54, 54 or 58, 54,
58, sir,
yeah,
58.
54, 58, right.
58.
He overthrew him and thereafter became the chief marshal, administrator, and dictator, and everything, and also became a field marshal in 59. Right? Look at what Musharraf did, right, to Nawaz Sharif. Nawaz Sharif had to spend entire life outside. Look what Ziaul Haq. They were all faithfuls of this thing. The only change today is that the Asim Munir and the present leadership realize that it's better to enjoy the perks and powers without being responsible and accountable publicly. They have been always controlling the West. Whenever the governments were in power, in time of Ayub, still Benazir Bhutto's father, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, had some degree of say swing. He had a Kashmiri society club and stuff like that. They were working slightly independent from Yukon. But yet, when the time for launch came for Operation Gibraltar, they had to take sanction of Yukon. Not so by Musharraf and by Asim Munir, right? But yet they understand the power and which is there. We take too much of the invite to attend US Army this time, When you sell your soul to the country with whom you are supposed to hate the most, last a decade or so, the Pakistanis have been totally weird to the Chinese. 85% of their military hardware is from China, 81%. And small bits are from America. Why should it not be otherwise?
True.
Right. So suddenly when the time comes, they go running to Uncle Sam to say, Bachao. And I think you may have heard me in some, they're saying, nobody wants to go and settle down. They send their children to settle down in China. Will Asim Munir, Bajwa, Nawaz Sharif, Shahbaz Sharif's daughters, children, number of wives are likely to go and settle down in China for the retired life? Or will they like to go to US too?
True, sir.
Look at the comparisons, right? So one is that. Second is, these invites are normal, right? Like in India, we used to get invites to attend so many things. I was in a particular department. But we've got a political leadership, we've got a bureaucratic setup. So these are processed. The chiefs cannot go everywhere they are invited. But here, the decision of even the political dispensation to go abroad is taken by the military dispensation. So should we start comparing ourselves? Are you going to become should we also become like Pakistan? We are not a proxy state
I was
of
not comparing,
America or
sir.
China.
I was just referring to the hypocrisy, sir. Nothing beyond that, sir. The hypocrisy.
There is hypocrisy. There is no hypocrisy. They got a general running a country for them. Why should they not invite? Tell me.
Right? No, sir, of him being the discomfort of him being in US.
Yeah, I told you that they have sold the soul. When they have sold the soul, they can backstab. And mind you, when the time will come, they will backstab the Americans also. Do you think Osama bin Laden operation happened because Americans were too great to do it? 2 helicopters came inside 250 kilometers, if I'm not wrong. 150 odd kilometers, right? From Afghanistan side. One crashed. They could not chase, do anything. So they can sell the terrorist leadership, they can sell Taliban, they can buy Taliban. They're sellable. Pakistan is a sellable country. And so is the leadership.
Sir, I would like to conclude on that note because we have covered a lot of areas, sir, starting from Iran to Pakistan and China. And it's been a geopolitical learning experience. And I have to conclude because the time is running out, not because, sir, I don't want to carry on with this, sir. Thank you so much because I'll keep coming back to you because this is an evolving situation, sir. I'll keep coming back to you, sir. Thank you so much and Jai Hind.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.